Hey, friends. Welcome. Whether you're here live or you're watching the recording, I'm excited for us to dive into part 2 of Think and Grow Rich. I was watching the piece that we're going to watch tonight and kind of taking some notes as I was going to share a little bit before we get started. And it's just, tonight's really, really good. The power of desire, our thoughts, and the impact that they have on our lives, which is a message I've been preaching for quite some time as someone that struggled with anxiety. So a few things that I want to just touch on, points that really stood out to me tonight in the section that we're going to watch before we get started. This phrase, most tiptoe through life. And so a question that I want you to ask yourself is, do you tiptoe through life, or do you fiercely pursue what you want to do? Get rid of the limited thinking in your life, because limited thinking will prevent you from doing anything that you want to do. If you completed that desire worksheet, which I did this afternoon, it was really good. And it's easy to do that and have limited thinking and think, oh, well, I don't know if that's possible, or, oh, is that realistic? And I mean, if you can think it, you can do it, y'all. And I know that a lot of the world is going to tell you that you can't, but I truly, truly believe that is. Another great saying from tonight was, you're free if you create freedom for yourself. And so I would say that's another thing that rings true, especially having suffered with anxiety. I had to choose to want freedom. Freedom just doesn't come. It's a choice. And by the way that I thought and the choices that I made. And then another powerful saying was, the only thing you need to do is bring all of your attention and all of your focus into this moment. And so I think it's so easy for us in this world to get so distracted by so many things. And this example was with a football team, which you'll hear about it here in a little bit. But I think it's so easy to get pulled in so many directions. You know, oh, crap, I didn't get a chance to work on my business today. Crap, I let go of whatever the goal was, spending time with my husband, or spending time on me. And I want to just encourage you and challenge you, whatever you're focused on in that moment, bring all of your attention and all of your focus to that moment. Can you imagine what our lives would look like if we put the distractions aside and we said, okay, I'm going to spend 30 focused minutes doing X? I think our lives would look really, really different, because we're in a very fast-paced, busy world. And so anyway, tonight we're going to dive into desire, the power of the mind. And so with that said, can you all see my screen okay? Yep, okay.
People think that you have to be brilliant in every aspect in business and life or whatever it is to be successful. I believe that we all have strengths and we all have weaknesses, but you really need to foster your strengths, whatever your weaknesses are, that you surround yourself with those types of people. Henry Ford created a mastermind alliance, and that's what you have to do.
Everything we see in the world that was created by man was first created in his mind. It's like Van Gogh said, I dream my painting, and then I paint my dream. We have to understand that whatever Rembrandt or Van Gogh used, we have available to us.
This book changed my life. It was August 18, 2006. I had been practicing law, and a friend invited me to a management seminar. And I remember arriving on the Friday night, and I'm in the seminar room, and it was such a transformative evening that I could tell you exactly where I was sitting. I could tell you what I was wearing, and I could tell you what the speaker that came out on stage was wearing and what he was saying. And, well, it was Bob Proctor. And he had the book Think and Grow Rich. And he was talking about the lessons he had learned. At that time, I guess it was about over 45 years. He's now been studying the book for 55 years. He said, when we're born, we're risk takers. We're just naturally risk takers. We want to get up there. We want to walk around. We want to learn to run and learn to do things. And then as we grow older, we're taught to play it safe, stay in the comfort zone. He said, most people tiptoe through life, hoping to make it safely to death. I remember it was like a bucket of ice poured over my head, and I thought, oh my God, am I living the life I'm meant to live? And he kept saying, what do you want? What do you really want? And something inside of me woke up and it was like, there is a greater purpose for me. I'm physically in the seminar room, but my mind is flashing through the boardrooms and executive offices. And I started to see this program. I started to see the design of the program, what it would be called, Thinking into Results. I could see it on a Fortune 50 executives bookshelf. And I could see the executives coming up to me and saying what a big impact it had on their life and their family's life and their entire company and community. And I remember walking out of the seminar room on the Sunday evening when I said, I don't know how, but I'm going to do this.
Babe Ruth, everybody knows he had the record for the most home runs, but he also did well in strikeouts. One time he was asked by a sports reporter, said, Babe, what do you think about when the pitcher strikes it out? He said, I'm starting to feel sorry for the next one I face because it's time for another home run. So he didn't concentrate on the strikeouts because often he'd strike out several times in one game. But he also, a lot of games, he hit a home run with somebody on base and won the ball game. So the success is what counts. But we can lose focus by counting on where we didn't succeed and not enjoy and progress on what's been successful for us.
When I first saw the book Think and Grow Rich, it reminded me when I told my mom at 16, I'm going to get rich. The mentality that really makes the difference is action. It's not intelligence. It's not connections. It is action. I've never thought I was limited to this, the cranium or 5'8", or a body. He was really confronting the spiritual being, not the physical body. Thought is not a physical thing. It's out here, right? I've just been lucky enough since the age of 25 to be interested in my personal development and getting rid of limited thinking so I could have and create and move toward abundance and prosperity and freedom, real freedom. You're free if you create freedom for yourself. And that first starts with the ability to think freely.
So people always ask me, is there a way to change a negative thought to a positive thought? And the answer is no. You're out of luck. You can't do that. The only way you can change the negative thought is with a positive affirmation. When you say your goals out loud. So the moment I have a negative thought, I say my goals out loud, and then the negative thought goes away.
Mary Kim Titla, who is the National Executive Director of United National Indian Tribal Youth, she and I have worked together with Native youth now for 20 years. And a few years ago, she said, would you come and speak to my son Bear's 8th grade football team? Because they're getting killed, they're getting demoralized. They lost 48-0 yesterday, they lost 38-0 last week, 28-10 the week before, it keeps getting worse. I said, sure, and I drove down, it's about an hour and a half. It's literally the land of Geronimo. That's where he's from. And I simply said to them, you know, you're in 8th grade, but I'm gonna tell you something that will help you the rest of your lives that is just as important and just as true for you as it is for NFL players, which is the only thing you have to do right now is to use all of your focus and bring all of your passion. It may sound simple. That's all you have to do for the next 2 hours, because there's so many players that have more speed, more talent, more physical ability that never make it in the NFL because they never learned that. For the next 2 hours, I challenge you to do that. In the first 11 plays, and I have witnesses to this, they scored 3 touchdowns. They won the rest of their games. Mary Kim told me they didn't lose another game. And then 3 months later, she calls me up and she says, 16 of those 22 young people are on the basketball team, and they just finished the regular season undefeated. Now, that wasn't my power. It was simply helping them see the power they had.
Well, my story starts as a young man. At age 17, my biggest ambition was to be an All-American football player and then go into the NFL and hopefully play for the beloved Dallas Cowboys. And the coaches and the scouts and the people that monitor those sorts of things kind of assured me I had the size and speed to do that. And I thought my future was set. Then one day, during a routine physical to go play another season of football, I was diagnosed with the condition that would cause me to lose my sight. 10 years later, I was totally blind, and I woke up that morning. I instantly knew I'd lost the remainder of my sight, and I knew I would live the rest of my life as a blind person, and the thoughts and the doubts and the fears that came over me would be impossible to describe. I was 29 years old. I had never met a blind person. I didn't have a clue what I was going to do with the rest of my life. So the only plan I could come up with involved moving into this little 9 by 12 foot room in the back of my house. And in my little room, I had my radio and my telephone and my tape recorder. And I really fully intended to never leave that room again. The thought of traveling millions of miles and talking to millions of people, or writing 30 books and having 6 of them made into movies, or doing speeches, or running a television network with over 1,000 stations, or doing this movie project would have seemed as foreign to me as going to the moon. So I sat in my little 9 by 12 foot self-imposed prison, and I never thought I would leave that room again. And I sat there broke and despondent and depressed and suicidal. I thought of that. I remember they brought me a white cane, and they said, Jim, this will never be away from your side. You'll never have a job. People won't like you. Women won't want to hang around with you. Men won't put up with you. You're never going to make money. You'll need to get on relief or welfare. And this cane will never be more than a few feet away from you until you die. And I sat that cane on one side of my chair. And on the other side of my chair were tapes that people had given me of Think and Grow Rich and other great books. And I realized there's not much I can do sitting in this little room, broke and scared. I can't even get out of this little room, but I can think. And the whole world changed because I changed my life when I changed my mind, sitting in that little room. Because on one side was the white cane, and on the other side was a voice telling me pure, powerful, positive possibility. And I realized somebody's lying to me. And I figured I'd rather die believing in possibility than live believing that we're all here to be poor.
Well, some people don't believe in the law of attraction, but I've proven it, I've seen it scientifically, and therefore it exists. Some people ask me, as a scientist, can thoughts really change the world? Can they really create things? Yes, of course, thoughts can really impact reality. As we have shown in our water research, you can even change your physical body. We have believed for a long time that water is able to store information. Then we came across a method which is a simple dark field microscope. And with this dark field microscope, we take photographs from drops of water. The drops are placed on a glass plate. Then the water evaporates. You expect probably on this glass plate a random picture, but this isn't a random picture. The structure in this picture depends on the information which has been in the water. So basically, it depends on what the water has experienced in the past. And then we impact thoughts, special thoughts. For example, please build a center, you drop. The experimenter influences the pictures we see. The person does not touch the water. The water is in a syringe, and if you have strong thoughts enough, then we see after evaporating that a center is built in this drop. This is a transition from the spiritual to the physical world. And in this transition, we pass the state of form. Thoughts are feelings. You have good thoughts or you have bad thoughts. And for example, if you have a shock, if you have a bad emotion, then you will see that afterwards, all the drops you make are not the same as before. These drops are totally changed. These drops are really unstructured. You realize that you are what you think, and you create your surrounding as you are. And I think this is the most important thought.
The power of thought can be so strong and have such an impact that you don't realize what your thoughts might do to you or to others. It was sometime in the late 80s. I was living in La Jolla. It was during a very severe drought in California. I had heard on the radio that the reservoirs were so low that there was no drinking water for animals who would visit these reservoirs, and animals were dying. And I thought, well, this sounds like a good cause. So we thought we'd make t-shirts and bumper stickers, because back then you didn't have social media and other ways to promote things. It was very old school. And we wanted to have this name called Think Rain. So Think Rain was this idea we had, and we were going to use it to create awareness about raising money and also maybe even get people to think about the necessity to conserve water. I called up Sacramento from Southern California and I said,
how long does it take to get a statewide trademark? Really?
And they basically said, we'll send you the application. That'll take probably 2 weeks. You can fill it out, send it back. But I don't really have that much time. You know, in my mind, it was an emergency. I decided we were doing it and I wasn't going to wait for paperwork. So we got in the car, my friend drove, and we had a pad of paper, and I took a pen and I scribbled on it really thick, Think Rain. And as soon as we got on the freeway, the first car I held the sign up to, without even realizing it, was a station wagon full of nuns. And they were like, you know, bless you, you know. So we began to flash every single car we saw through the whole state of California on our way from Southern to Northern California to go to the state capitol to get this document we wanted to secure ownership of the name. I don't know how many people we flashed. It must have been, I don't know, it could have been 1,000 or more. And every person was like, yeah, Think Rain, that's a great idea. And so as we pulled into Sacramento, I remember going under this underpass, and as we went under it, there's like a drop of water that hit the windshield, and I thought, is that like just condensation? What was that? So we pull into the Capitol and we go into the Secretary of State's office.
Her schedule is really full up today, I'm sorry.
It's really important that we get our trademark done today.
No, you have to submit it, and the Secretary of State will review it and will send it back to you.
Is there anything you can do to just get 5 minutes? I promise. That's all it'll take.
We told her what it was about, and she goes, well, just a minute. And she comes back about 10 minutes later and says, Secretary of State of California, March Fong Yu, we'll see you now. And we're like, really?
This is about bringing awareness about the terrible drought that's been going on in California. We believe that Think Rain can be something that people can start thinking positively about and putting their energy towards to stop this terrible drought. That's why we wanted to see you directly.
And you believe this will make a difference?
Madam Secretary, you can see outside your window. The drought is affecting everything.
Emma, can you bring the stamp in, please?
Don't make history.
Wow, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Pleasure.
And we got in the car and we started driving home. And as we drove home, it began to rain. And it rained. And it rained. And that drought was over. We never made a single bumper sticker. We never made a single t-shirt because there was no reason to.
Once you say, yes, I'm going to do that, and you make that definite decision, the world starts to change because your mind, the greatest gift we've ever been given, will start looking for ways to make your dream come true instead of looking for excuses, which is how you live until you have a definiteness of purpose.
I grew up in Ohio, blue-collar family, one of 6 kids. My father was a bartender, and he had a desire to own his own business. I started working for my father when I was 11 years old because I was number 4 of 6, and I had to pay for my own schooling, my own clothes, my own shoes. He was successful as an entrepreneur, but by the time I got to number 4, children-wise, there wasn't a lot of money to go around. So I bought the book, Think and Grow Rich. And wow, did that give me a jolt of lightning. It was unbelievable. Here I was, very motivated, but I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know how to do it. And so now, after reading Think and Grow Rich, I decided I want to own my own business. And so I started a driveway sealing business. I was 15 years old. I was knocking on doors, driving my bicycle up to the house. I was a little embarrassed that I had to ride my bicycle to do the pitch for the driveway sealing. Just because I wanted to do it didn't mean I was going to be successful. I've read Think and Grow Rich dozens and dozens of times, and I remember reading it again because I wanted to see, how do I get even more motivated? It was a game changer for me. It opened my eyes, motivated me to really have my own way, to do my own things. This was the beginning of my entrepreneurial days and controlling my own destiny, being my own boss, living the principles of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
For as long as I can remember, I've been an athlete. When I wasn't training, I was reading about it. When I wasn't reading about it, I was thinking about it. It was my life. In fact, my nickname was Janine the Machine because that embodied the sort of person I was. Well, I found myself as a member of the Australian ski team, and my goal was to represent my country at the Olympics, to really put Australia on the map as a force to be reckoned with. That was my dream, and nothing was going to stop me. Then on one warm autumn day, I set out on a training bike ride with my fellow teammates. We'd been on our bikes for around 5.5 hours when we got to the part of the ride that I loved, and I got up off the seat of my bike and I started pumping my legs, and as I sucked in the cold mountain air, I could feel it burning my lungs. And I looked up to see the sun shining in my face, and then everything went black. My body was consumed with pain. I'd been hit by a speeding truck. I'd broken my neck and my back in 6 places. 5 ribs on my left side, my right collarbone, my right arm. My head was cut open across the front, lifted back, exposing the skull underneath. I had internal injuries and I had massive blood loss. One part of me was in intensive care, excruciating pain, and the other part was detached and pain-free. I spent 10 days between dimensions, and I was given a choice to stay in this spiritual dimension or to return to my broken body. After 10 days, I opened my eyes to find myself back in my body, and the journey had begun. I spent 6 months flat on my back in the spinal ward, and when I left, I had no feeling from the waist down, and they told me that if I did walk again, it would be with calipers and a walking frame. I can remember my doctor saying to me, "What are you going to do when you get home?" I said, "I'm going to the Olympics." And she looked at me and said, in a matter-of-fact way, "Janine, you're never going to be able to do the things you did before." And that was my rock bottom. And the only way that I was going to move forward was to let go of the life that I thought I was supposed to have. And when I made that decision, my whole life changed. I realized that even with my broken body, Janine the Machine was still alive. Sometime after that, I was sitting outside in my wheelchair in my plaster body cast, and an aeroplane flew overhead. And I looked up and I thought to myself, okay, if I can't walk, then maybe I can fly. That moment changed my life. In my plaster body cast and a pair of baggy overalls that my mother bought me, my friend and my mother drove me out to the local airport, and they lifted me into a light aircraft for the first time. Everybody thought I was crazy. And I remember sitting in the cockpit and wondering, how on earth would I ever be able to do this? But I had a dream. And the instructor that was next to me took off and allowed me to fly that day with my hands. And I thought to myself, I can do this. I am going to learn how to fly. There was something burning so strongly inside me that nothing could stop me.
A burning desire is an inner candle, an inner flame that can never be extinguished. And no matter what may go before you, come hell or high water, you are going to bet your existence on this burning desire. And if the cynics come, and the doubters come, And the negative, toxic people come, you will use their cynicism, you will use their doubt to propel you forward. Arguably one of the most impactful, inspiring stories and profiles in my book, Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, centers on Mary McLeod Bethune.
Hello. Are you here for school?
Yes,
What's your name?
Mary McLeod. Can I help you carry them books?
Those books.
Those books.
Yes. Thank you, Mary. Why are you so early?
It's 5 miles, and I didn't know how long it would take to walk over here.
You walked 5 miles by yourself. How old are you, Mary?
11. I run most of the way.
Why did you come by yourself? Don't you have brothers and sisters?
I have 2 younger brothers, but they too small to come. And 14 big brothers and sisters, but they too busy with work and such. But when you teaches me how to read, I can teach all of them how to read too.
True. Miss Mary McLeod, you ran 5 miles before breakfast, and you are the 15th of 17 children.
Yes, and
This is your desk. And this is your first book.
but I can't read it. I don't even know its name.
You will read it.
This is the best day ever, better than birthdays and Christmas and all the other days.
In 1904, with only 6 students and desks made out of discarded milk crates, Mary McLeod Bethune started her own school for girls. In 1931, she became president of Bethune-Cookman College, and shortly after, she was invited to the White House by President Roosevelt and First Lady Eleanor.
Right this way, Mr.
What an honor to meet you.
The honor is mine, Mrs. Roosevelt.
You know, you were the president of a college when there was hardly a woman college president anywhere in the world.
Well, when you start a little school and grow it up to be a college, no one can tell you no to being president.
Your college is thriving now while others are failing, and I know why. It is our pledge to make a lasting contribution to all that is finest and best in America, to cherish and enrich her heritage of freedom by working to integrate all her people, regardless of race, creed, or national origin.
I can't believe I'm sitting in the White House and the First Lady is quoting me to me.
How is this fire born in you? Have you always had it?
When I was a little girl, I went with Mama to deliver laundry to a white lady's house, and I picked a book up and the child snatched it away. You can't read, she said. And I decided that that was the only difference between white and black folks, was that white folks could read. My whole life was based on that.
God bless that little brat wherever she may be. She helped create a great woman who's brought the light into thousands of lives. I'm going to the National Convention of Women in Florida. I've asked to be seated next to you on the platform.
Now, Mrs. Roosevelt, you know it's against the law in the state of Florida for white and black folks to sit next to each other.
I know. I'd like to see the officer with the gumption to try and arrest the 2 of us.
Yeah, that would be a whole heap of gumption at that.
Yes. Holy.
President Roosevelt is ready to meet Mrs. Bethune now.
Oh my, oh my. Christmas and birthdays all rolled into one.
She started.
All right, y'all. I don't know about you, but the brain or the water and the negative thoughts, the positive thoughts, that to me was the most powerful piece in all of this. I can just relate to that, having struggled with anxiety. But I loved the phrase, I changed my life when I changed my mind. I know somebody else, Sarah, made a comment. I think she was talking about the water and the thoughts. So anyway, I hope tonight blessed you. And I'm excited for Sunday. We'll resume at our normal time. For those of you that could not make it live, I will post the recording on our team page, and I hope you all had the most amazing night. I'll post tomorrow morning, and I would love for the three of you to post if you had any, huge takeaways or thoughts or phrases, just to encourage everyone else. So I love you all. Thanks for showing up, and have a good rest of your night. Bye.